I've always been fascinated by washerwomen since I first learned of their work. I read To Joy My Freedom early in my graduate program by Tara Hunter, who's a brilliant historian of the African American experience as well. And her book on Atlanta washerwomen and the strike they waged in 1881 became a guide for me to think about that time period and to think about, how do you research in those questions. So for me, washerwomen, I've been teaching about them. I've been reading about them. I wrote about them in my first book and the role that they played in the streetcar boycotts. So I'm always have them in the back of my mind. So when, this labor thing came up, I was like, oh, we're going to write about washerwomen. And then I got super intimidated because I was like, oh God, you have said you're going to write about washerwomen and there's this phenomenal book about them out already. There's not going to be anything for you to add. You have really messed up. I ran into Tara Hunter and she was like, you just writing one chapter about washerwomen? And I was like, oh God. So I just felt like, oof, I don't know. And then I started doing newspaper searches, but this was the first book I've ever written where we had a lot of AI digitization around newspapers. And so I could type in Black washerwomen, Negro washerwomen, laundresses. I could type in a whole bunch of different terms and outpoured, a plethora of articles talking about different aspects of washerwomen and their work, but also strikes, protests, complaints, fights, all kinds of things about washerwomen. And I was like, whoa, there's a whole thing here that has never been written about. And so it was really phenomenal to me to get to see that the Atlanta example that Tara Hunter found was the biggest one and the most impactful one, but there were a ton of other smaller ones that happened all over the country, really. And so I just was so fascinated and won over by their resistance, their voices, their advocacy, in spite of being people who, were thought of at the bottom of the labor pyramid. They were really phenomenal. And so it really filled my heart with joy to get to write those stories.